Welcome to SAM Conversation, a program of South Asia Monitor. Today, we are going to discuss a series of two books named Naam, Namak and Nishan. Name, Salt and the Flag. Very interestingly, they've been put together by 5 doctors, medical doctors of the Armed Forces Medical College, Pune. Very obviously, they are all 5 much more than their own profession, with masters in their own right. Air Commodore Anurakshat Gupta, he was a group captain when these books were penned. He's presently the administrative officer of the Armed Forces Medical College. Then we have Flight Lieutenant Amitabh Sengupta, a medical officer in the Indian Air Force, and Surgeon Lieutenant Commander Dinesh Mahato from the Navy, Dr. Anmol Dhawan, currently running he's in radiology, and again, that's not all. He has a fair interest in quizzing in military history also. And the 5th is Sagnik Sarkar, a final year MBBS student in the Armed Forces Medical College, Pune. These 2 books cover fascinating and very educative, informative aspects of military history, Indian military history, from the time that the East India Company made its advent into India. There are lots of interesting nuggets of knowledge which are brought out, and the chapters for the first book are the colonial era before the beginning, chapter 2, India at the World Wars and the years in between. Incidentally, India's contribution to the First World War was 15 lakh Indian soldiers, and the Second World War was 25 lakh Indian soldiers. Today we are just about a 12 lakh army, fighting on 2 fronts. And the last chapter here is the 3rd chapter is War of Independent India. A phoenix rises from the ashes. 4th is the operations, warriors, traditions, and colors of men in uniform. And the 2nd book, its chapters are Before Independence, from 1947 to 1999, the Kargil War. Incidentally, this book was released on 26 July this year, when to mark 25 years of the Kargil, what we call the Kargil War, which was actually an intensification of the conflict in Jammu and Kashmir. And the last chapter is a kaleidoscope of anecdotes. There are delightful anecdotes in this, not just delightful, but very informative also. The Armed Forces Medical College, their officers have done very well, not only in service, but even after leaving the service. I think 6 of them are deans of various medical universities. There's one worth mentioning, Dr. Arvind Lal, who runs the Lal Path Labs, very well known Lal Path Labs. I'll not take any more time. I request Air Commodore Anurakshat Gupta to throw light on how they were inspired and how they went about and what all they brought about.
Morning and good afternoon to everyone who's tuned in, tuned into this interview. I thank Colonel Anil Bhat and his team at the South Asia Monitor for giving us this opportunity to talk about our book. So, the origins of this book actually go back to somewhere in 2005. I was deployed as a surgeon in Mazar-e-Sharif in northern Afghanistan as part of the Indian medical mission. And one day we were there just to look after the Afghans, but there were a lot of these NGOs and other such foreigners over there, and we were the only Western trained doctors over there. So we got to sort of treat maybe 40, 45 different nationalities as a result of that. And one day, the local British regiment that was based over there had a peculiar problem. Their doctor developed appendicitis. So, we stepped in, helped them, and in return, they called us over for a meal one of the subsequent evenings. It is at that place that I saw that the commanding officer had a very unique thing going on. He had a short quiz for his all his troops. It was a 30-question quiz, 10 questions for which were based on the regimental history, 10 questions on British Army history, and 10 questions on the world history. And the prize for winning the quiz was two duties of guard duties off, which in Afghanistan in 2005 was a very significant prize. You can imagine. So, but that sort of put a seed of an idea in my mind saying that I wonder how we can get informed about our own forge the way we should be ideally. Are there any interesting things that are happening in forge? What is our history like? How is it that we can get it across to a larger set of people? Now, traditionally, the sad part that I have seen is that the way the armed forces is projected in media is a very patriotic or a very we're all standing in one line playing the guitar and having a drink at the bar, or it is something that is shrouded in massive 1000 5000 pages 400 pages of deep intense military history which is not really accessible to the average person. So that sort of idea which was there in my mind, it took me some time to try and see how I could best uh, sort of try and fructify this idea. And from 2010 2012, a couple of efforts were made in order to make few military-based quizzes for some events in different hospitals that I was serving in. But it was only around 2020 that I had this group of people. So, me along with my four co-authors, what is common about us is that, like Colonel Bhatt said, we are all from the Armed Forces Medical College. We were all part of the quizzing teams during our different era. The age gap between the senior most person, that's me, and the junior most person, that's Sagnik Sarkar, is approximately 30 years. We're 30 years apart. So, and interestingly, I have taught all the other four uh, sort of co-authors. They've all been my students when I was a professor of surgery at AFMC. So I'm a surgeon by profession, and these boys happen to be my students. And so I got them together. We had this brainstorming during the COVID pandemic, saying that let's try and work on this book. Penguin was very, very nice and helpful. They helped us to sort of this was a leap in the dark for them. They had never published anything like this, no quiz books before. They had never published first time authors as per their own statement, saying because we were absolute novices in this field. And so the only thing that we were very confident about was the content, and that this was a niche that we had never seen anywhere else, not just in India, but in the world. I am the director of the International Quizzing Association, which is based in London, and we do the European Quizzing Championships and the World Quizzing Championships each year. And so I travel a lot every year, once at least, to conduct these events. But nowhere else in the world have I come across anything which is related specifically to the world of military in the form of a quiz. And so that's how the whole thing sort of fructified. We launched our first book in May of 2023. The feedback was very good. The whole response was good. Sales were far more than what Penguin anticipated, and so as soon as July 2023, we offered to write the follow-up volume, and they readily agreed. Our only request was that we release it on the 25th anniversary of the Kargil conflict, which happened to be 26th of July this year. And fortunately, we were able to make it happen. So that's how this entire sort of set of books has happened. Uh, it's our belief, sir, that we have enormous amount of information that is not easily available to the average public, even to the average 4G, because, like I said, it is a very uh, densely sort of packed academic tome that mostly carries the information. We try to make information accessible to the average person. And of course, in the process, we've been able to reach out to the armed forces personnel themselves. That itself has been very gratifying for us. So I'll stop there and let you ask the further questions, sir.
Thank you, Anurakshat. Um, Tell me, you have it's not just the army. You've covered, I think, all three services: army, navy, and air force. Um, and there are any um, any outstanding you know things that you brought out just to as a teaser to those who may be attracted to buy the books and
So, we of course have pitched it as the Indian Armed Forces quiz book and not the Army quiz book alone. Three of us co-authors are in the Air Force, one is in the Navy, and but essentially we are all still Army Medical Corps. So that's what connects Army, Air Force, and Navy for us together. So we all have an Army number. We are unique in having an Army number as well as an Air Force or a Navy number in the Army Medical Corps. And so we have had the opportunity of serving both in Army as well as Air Force and Naval hospitals. So therefore, for us, the color of the uniform truly is moot. It's not something that is that would restrict our sort of reach to the armed forces. Uh, there are enormous number of interesting anecdotes and interesting things that one has come across. In fact, it's been such a learning process for us ourselves, sir. So some of the interesting things that we have come across, for example, right from the time of the 17th century, when we had a Frenchman who became a general for the Marathas, and before serving as a general for the Marathas, he'd already served three different nations. He was like this mercenary for hire, if you can call it, but a very, very competent man. Uh, and or for that matter, so the fact that uh, so many people who we know in other fields, like say a person like uh, Everest, who gave his name to the Everest mountain, he was from the armed forces. We know that, I'm sure you all remember from your days of radio and music, the name of Anand Bakshi. He had served both in the Indian Army as well as the Indian Navy before he became a songwriter. You know, Madan Mohan, the music director, his father was the police commissioner of Baghdad, and Madan Mohan himself joined the Indian Army for a few years before he decided that this was not something that was his cup of tea, and so on and so forth. It is just stunning the amount of fields that Fauji's and people with armed forces background have populated. Very recently, I don't know if people have been seen those reports. We have one of our retired Director General of Armed Forces, Lieutenant General Unni, who has just taken part in the World Tango Dancing Competition in Argentina and done brilliantly at that. So he's a baker, he is a paratrooper, he's a cardiothoracic surgeon. He was the Director General of the Armed Forces Medical Services, and now he's tangoing in Argentina. I mean, if this is not inspirational, then I don't know what is. He's covered all bases. So it's people like this, it's incidents and events like this that, make us feel that we need to break the stereotype of various, things that media has brought on to the minds of people, saying that, well, Fauji's do just this thing, they just fight. No, we do that and much, much more. So that was one of the aims of the books, if you'd like to say,
Um,
to some. So
if I may bring out in Bollywood, the world of Bollywood, there are very many children of
absolutely,
armed
sir.
forces officers who are
Oh, absolutely,
top,
absolutely. I
toppers.
have served. Yes, so we've served. One of our AFMCites was Dr. Arvind Chopra, whose daughter is Priyanka Chopra. We
Yes,
have so many of these people from our college itself, and of course from Forge, the number is much, much more. So yes, we had so many interesting things that we discovered, especially, like I said, there are interesting things which go back to 17th century, 16th century. Of course, we had to have a cutoff, sir. That was one of the things. So where do you make a beginning? And uh, truly, like, for example, I'll give you a simple thing. Like, there is a Bikaner Camel Corps, right, which is now basically part of the BSF. Now, that started
it
off
was
as
the 13th
Ganga Risala.
Grenadiers, Ganga Jaisalmer Risala.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so it traces its history to even before Indian Army, much before, because it is part of the Ganga Risala, like you said. So it's very interesting. I mean, we all heard of things like Teen Murti Bhavan or Teen Murti Marg. Not many Indians know that Teen Murti is the three regiments that took part in the Haifa sort of cavalry charge, one of the last
Battle of
cavalry
Haifa,
charges.
yes. They,
Absolutely, sir.
they in in Israel in the history books there's mention
Absolutely, sir.
of
Yes, sir.
all the Indian personnel, including 4 or 5 officers, Thakur Vijay Dalpat
Yes,
Singh
sir.
and all. It's in
Absolutely, sir.
we haven't in
So,
India we haven't done that, but in
we
Israel
haven't done
they
that,
have.
sir. True, absolutely, sir. I mean, if you look at some of these Commonwealth War graves that are there dotted across the country, the two most significant ones that I can think of are in Kohima and one in Khadki in Pune. So these are places that are maintained by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. They are absolutely exactly similar to what you can find throughout Belgium, France, and all the other parts where the First and the Second World War took place. In fact, those in Belgium and France and Italy and maybe some parts of Central Europe, they are filled with Indian names. Like you said, sir,
We
1.5 million Indians
um,
took part in the wars over there. In the first and two and
but
a half
you know,
million in the
and
second, sir.
in foreign countries of the Commonwealth, the
Absolutely.
many allied countries have memorials to the Indian Army,
Yes, sir.
whereas
Yes, sir.
Indian India itself made a national war memorial only as late as 2019.
Absolutely, sir. Very, 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 I would say despicable, but we are Fauji, so we would find it despicable. I don't know if the rest of the country finds it sad or tragic or not. But uh, for example, I've got friends and batchmates who are now serving now in Australia, and they take part in the Anzac parade very proudly because at Gallipoli we had Gurkha soldiers taking part in the defense of Gallipoli in the Dardanelles Wars in the Second World War, and we are there in so many places. There were Indian expeditionary forces to the entire Africa, Expeditionary Force A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There are so many of them in the First World War, fighting in Kenya, fighting in Uganda, Tanzania, Mesopotamia, the entire defense of Iraq, all the defense of the oil fields over there. So our contribution has been phenomenal. In fact, many state forces have contributed immensely. So we had all these rich Maharajas who funded hospital ships, who funded food, artillery, ammunition for various regiments that they were affiliated to, who helped the Allied cause by funding purchase of aircrafts. I don't know how many people are aware that the when the number one squadron of Indian Air Force was founded, there was no money to buy those aircrafts, and so the population of Bombay contributed money. They donated money to buy those aircrafts, and that's why number one squadron for many years was called the Bombay Squadron. So, it is incredible. I mean, if you look at the Air Force station at Jodhpur, which used to be at once upon a time the Southwestern Air Command headquarters, the entire land has been provided by the Maharaja of Jodhpur free of cost. I think it's at 1 rupee a year lease just for the Air Force to use it because he was an aviation enthusiast. The Jodhpur Club, Aviation Club came up in 1930s. We had the Maharaja of Kapurthala buying biplanes. We had the world's first postal air mail took place in India from Allahabad to Naini. The first time that mail was carried by air was in India by aviation enthusiasts. These are the same people who went on to become a part of the armed forces. Yes, sir.
No, I'm. I must stop you because of you were carrying on with some fantastic, fascinating facts, and I hope this book is these books are widely bought and read, and by those in the particularly those in the government, those who in the government who are in the decision making positions. Um, Thank you very much, Herr Commodore Anurakshat Gupta, and to your team for these delightful two tomes. All the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for helping us reach out, sir. I really appreciate all your help and support. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind.